Hey there, my friends. This is a spontaneous, off-the-cuff video by me, and I haven't done any research on it. I haven't done any pre-thought about it, so forgive me if I come across as offensive or somebody takes it the wrong way. I believe we all need to be offended once in a while, but that's not my intention here. The topic's going to involve perhaps some controversial, you know, uh, topics just briefly at the beginning here, which everything about race and gender is, of course, controversial now, but that's not the intention of this video. The video is about who is really oppressed, and I want to say that there's a lot of there's a lot of grief in society about many different things. And my intent is not to diminish anyone else's grief, but rather to point out that there are certain grievances that aren't talked about. And I'm going to tell you why. And I think you already know why. The media doesn't cover topics like the fact that the average person can't afford pharmaceuticals and they have to go through an insurance company, and even then they might still have to pay a bunch out of pocket. A person has to get something as simple as insulin, which has been around for decades, and the price can skyrocket and triple or quadruple, and nobody bats an eye about it. Meanwhile, you have Democrats saying, we're going to lower drug prices, and it never happens. It just never has happened. They just continue to go up and go up and go up. And we know that all the pharmaceutical companies made record profits last year. Big surprise. But the question here is about who's oppressed, and the reason I bring up the pharmaceutical industry is because the average person needs to go to a doctor sometimes, needs to go get a checkup, maybe needs to get some dental work done, whatever it might be. Now, anybody who's working for a major media organization, or anyone in Congress, basically anyone in the media or the government, probably has a healthcare plan. Okay, I'm guaranteeing that all of them. I know that the government does, but as far as media organizations, I'm pretty sure they all do too. On top of that, these very media organizations and the government are both sponsored and funded and lobbied by the pharmaceutical industry, this revolving door. And this is why they won't talk bad about the prices and won't say the average American can't afford these things. Because even if you say, well, insurance covers it, that's not good enough. We shouldn't have to have insurance to just go to a doctor to have a basic checkup. And the reason this is important is because the very poorest Americans can apply for free health care. And the very richest Americans, or anyone with enough, can spend the thousands a month to get their family insured. The rest of us that are stuck in the middle, that are just over that threshold, I have never had health insurance in my life. The last time I had health insurance, I was on the Oregon Health Plan in my late teens, I believe, early 20s, I guess. Still on my mom's plan. I was able to do it till I was 25 because I was living with her when I was like 22 or something. And they told me, I was getting wisdom teeth pulled. They said, get them all done now. Because, you're going to, when the health plan expires, you'll have to pay out of pocket. And I never thought about that much at that time, just having the Oregon Health Plan, right? Now, I'm not opposed to socialized medicine and helping people that need it. But I think the issue isn't that we need to socialize it by paying the exorbitant rates out of tax dollars, but rather we need to make sure that the government can make its own insulin, right? We can do our own programs. If the pharmaceutical companies want to make their own product, fine. But once these patents expire, why do we let ourselves play into their bullshit game? Because I haven't been to a doctor in years. I can't afford it. I can't afford to go in and have x-rays and tests on anything, and who knows, a preventative maintenance. The average person really doesn't get to hear about these things because they assume everyone's just taken care of. If you're self-employed or you work as, for example, a carpenter for a small company like me, or you do many other jobs these days, or you're like so many people, a gig economy worker, Uber Eats or Uber or something like that, or part-time at Amazon, just enough to not get any benefits, right? This was kind of a trick they played in the old days, but now it's just consistently every job is like that. Keep you under 40 hours so you don't get benefits. And it's fucked up and it's wrong. And the reason I brought up, the things as I said, controversial topics at the beginning is the fact that we're consistently talking about how, you know, racism or sexism or, bias towards others is the biggest issue right now that we have, right? It's that, oh, people are being held down by others who can't accept everyone for who they are. And look, I get it. We need to, as a society, overcome much of our bias, but we're working on it. In the meantime, you can't just like push this down people's throats and expect them to give a shit when they have bigger problems. So what I'm getting at is that people are concerned about issues like racism or people, but with the gay issue or the trans issue, that one is being way overplayed right now by both sides. People have always had different sexual preferences. For some reason, that's become center stage, and we often use that as like the victims now. Before, everyone was a racist, right? If they didn't support this, you're a racist. If you're silent, you're violent, that kind of stuff. And now it's like you need to be an ally, right? Meanwhile, the average person, regardless of what sex you are, regardless of what color you are, regardless of how old you are, the average person is really having a hard time just making basic ends meet, especially with a 30% inflation rate on top of the same old stagnating wage from way back in the day. People can't just afford their doctor, they can't afford mortgage or rent or groceries, basic things, utilities. So who's really oppressed? It's all people. It's anyone who doesn't make quite enough to make it happen. And I don't think folks really get that. When I hear the word reparations thrown around, I don't think about a race or what happened in the past. But if we're going to, if we were going to go that route, I would say, well, gosh darn, think about all of the people who lost their lives being shot by the Pinkertons who were standing up against, and protesting so they could unionize, so they could organize, and so they could get a fair 40-hour work week and not be worked to death for crap wages. And yeah, a lot of people actually got killed protesting back then. And I was like, even up into the 30s, 1933, I believe it was, when they basically made gold illegal in the U.S. Everyone in the U.S. had to turn in their gold. And the price that they got was like $30 an ounce, I think, something like that. Maybe it was less. But then as soon as everyone had turned in their gold, the Fed raised the price, like tripled the price of gold, basically screwing everybody out of what they already had invested for themselves for the country to bail out the same old shit, like bailing out in 2008. And meanwhile, the average person can't afford their basic shit. Like, government gets everything they need. That's the problem. That's the big problem. So, if people can't meet their basic needs, then I think that's a much bigger issue than any of this trivial bullshit that we're talking about. Look, we got to really thicken up our skin and get over the stupid petty arguments about bullshit that we can't change and start working on things we can change. There aren't that many people that are complete bigots out there. There aren't that many people that are hateful and violent. There are a few, and we need to deal with that. But in the meantime, we should be focused on the people that we all go to work every day, and a chunk of our paycheck goes to pay these people to sit around and make decisions for us without our best interest at heart. Sending it to Lockheed Martin or other companies, Boeing, make bigger planes, bigger bombs. It's fucked up. It really is. So, they don't want to talk about that either on the media or in government. Big surprise, because they're lobbied by these companies as well. So we have a very disgusting, corrupt, stinky system. And that's why I would never want to be a politician. Because in order to get anywhere, you've got to swim in the swamp with other pigs. And just ain't my thing. Anyhow, that's all I got to say. I think we all really need to rethink what our priorities are in society and stop listening to what the news says. I don't even know what the fuck places like CNN or Fox are saying these days. Like, I used to watch just for entertainment once in a while to see what they're saying. it's just the same drivel every time. And it's been like several years since I've watched any actual newscast. I mean, people are like, "Oh, how can you not stay informed if you don't watch CNN 24 hours a day with breaking news?" We don't have the news on in my house. I listen to commentaries or read headlines, and that's about it. And most of it doesn't fucking matter or apply to me. We need to focus on what we need in this country and to deal with what we need to do to help our own people here. And then, if you can help yourself, then you can help others. And we're getting sick here. We need to deal with it. Peace out. I'll see you next time.